Hi, I'm Lauren Jones, and I'm a behavior resource teacher.
And I'm Christy Barnes, and I'm also a behavior resource teacher.
And today we're going to be talking to you about proactive strategies. I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can begin. Okay, setting the stage for positive behaviors, proactive strategies.
Our goals for today are we are going to be able to list and describe positive strategies to prevent problem behavior, and we're also going to list strategies to implement in the home to maintain a positive environment.
Before we talk about those strategies, we want to look at the 4 phases of behavior. When we talk about the 4 phases of behavior, we always look at calm and stable functioning first. This is when your child's following directions, they're happy, they're playing. Sometimes our children move into pre-crisis. This might be stomping their feet or going to their room and slamming the door, starting to get frustrated or a little bit upset. Then we move up into crisis. This would be a full-blown tantrum or yelling or cursing from your child. And after crisis, we go down into post-crisis. This means they're not back fully into calm and stable functioning, may still be a little bit heightened and need some time to cool down. We have those dotted lines down at the bottom just as a reminder that this is a continuum, and we don't always go in a complete perfect circle. Sometimes we might go back from post-crisis up into crisis. But we really want to spend a lot of time looking at calm and stable functioning today. That's where our focus is going to be, because we want you to remember that if you use these proactive strategies, the hope is that your child will be more likely to stay in that calm and stable functioning.
Let's talk about the importance of proactive strategies. When you concentrate on proactive strategies, your child's problem behavior will decrease. And we're going to teach you a lot of those today. If you notice the arrows, the more proactive strategies that you use, the less problem behavior we will see. As parents, we know many times we use negative behaviors to correct our children's behavior, and then that might increase the problem behavior. So we really want to focus on the positive.
So the first strategy we want to talk about today is building relationships. This is so important when we talk about proactive strategies because our children are more likely to listen to people that they trust and have that positive relationship with. So we know as parents, you have that relationship with your child, but we want you to continue building it and continue growing it. One way you can do this is to show interest in your child's activities. If they're younger, you can play with them, play their toys or their games. And if they're older, hang out with them. Just spend time with them, talking about things they like or talking about their day. It's important that when you're doing this, you're providing appropriate and engaging activities to help build those relationships. You can also have them be a helper with you. We know a lot of our children have chores to do around the house, but you doing a chore alongside them could be encouraging for them and could also help continue to build those relationships. So while they're setting the table or folding and putting clothes away, you could be doing it with them and engaging in those conversations or just spending time together. Some other ideas of things you could do with your child are to read a book or watch a movie as a family.
Another thing that's really important is to provide structure. You want to have clearly defined rules, routines, and expectations. When you are defining these rules, you want to make sure that you state them positively. Many times we are quick to say no running instead of saying please walk. Or we're quick to say no jumping on the couch instead of please sit on the couch. When you're stating them positively, you're really teaching your children what to do. Another thing is to check for understanding. Many times it's good to have your child repeat the rule back to you instead of just asking them, did you hear what I just said? And they'll either nod or just say yes, but it really will help them remember when they can repeat the rule back to you. And as you're doing that, please don't have the rules really complicated. They should be very short and sweet. Again, you want to make sure that you're making statements and not questions. Many times we have too many open-ended questions, so please make sure that you just do a statement.
Continuing with that providing structure, we want to make sure that you're prepared. If you're doing an activity with your child, make sure you have everything you need available. That way, when you're ready to sit down and engage with them, you're not running around looking for the things that you might need. Another important thing is to set limits. Our children need limits, and these benefit them. So when they're watching a video, let them know, hey, you have 10 more minutes, and give them that reminder. It's also so important to be consistent. We say what you mean and mean what you say. This can be for positive or for negative things. So if there's a consequence, don't make it a threat, but follow through and make sure they understand. In the reverse, if you're promising them a reward, make sure that they get that reward after doing whatever you ask them to do.
It is also extremely important to be a reflective listener. One of the things to do first is to be present. Listen, as a parent, we know we're really busy. We have our phones on, or we're texting, the TV is on. But when you want to listen to your child, you really want to give them your full attention. How do you do that? Well, show them that you are listening. You want to nod your head and use as few words as possible. So you might just want to say, okay. So that shows them that you are listening. Another thing you can do is to tell them what you heard. Not to make a lot of judgment, but just to say, hey, you feel disappointed because we did not have time to go to McDonald's. That's okay, because you're validating what they feel.
Another important thing we need to do is notice when they're doing things right. Be specific with the praise you give to your child. Tell them exactly what they're doing that you like. You're doing such a great job picking up your toys. I love the way you're playing with your brother. When we're very specific about the positive things our child is doing, they're more likely to want to do those things in the future. It's also so important that we as parents are building up our child's self-image as trustworthy, responsible, and cooperative. The more you encourage these positive traits in your child, the more they're going to display those positive traits. It's so important that we're spending more time focusing on the positive things that they're doing, telling them what they're doing right, and telling them how well they're doing, instead of focusing on just the negative behaviors that we might see.
Another thing we need to look at are environmental supports. So, how can you change the environment to support positive behaviors? Well, let's look at things that we can change. We can change the noise level. If you have the TV on too loud, you might just want to move the child into a quiet area, like maybe their room. You want to look at the lighting. If it's too bright for some of our children, it might just really affect their behavior. And you also don't want it too dark. Let's talk about the location in the house. If you have a lot of stimulation, if you want the child to do something, but they're surrounded by a lot of toys or things that they're not paying attention, you just might want to move them to a quieter area. And then you also want to look at the activity space. If it's too large, that might be okay if they need to move around, but you also want to look at if it's too confining for them also. And again, you also want to look at proximity to other family members. Listen, we have siblings, and it's really sometimes difficult for our children if they're going to be arguing or fighting. And also, it might be good to put them to other preferred members, maybe an aunt or uncle or a grandparent, and that's okay.
Another awesome proactive strategy that we can think about are visual supports. And you might ask, when do we use them? Well, we, even as adults, use them all day long. We use them to learn new skills. We use them to communicate. Think about those emojis you send in text messages. We use them to help us deal with stress and new environments. When you go to a new place, you know where to go because you can use the visual supports like the signs or the maps. We use visuals to help us deal with change, to help us become independent, and to help us transition between activities. You have a visual calendar that tells you where to go when you're working, right? So just like we need visual supports as adults, our children really benefit from those types of visuals as well.
And as a continuation to that, here are some examples of some great visual supports. First, we have a first then board. This is really easy to use. You might say, first you pick up your toys, then you can have 10 minutes of your on your game. You can use pictures, you can use words, and it's right there. If you look at the left, we have a calm down schedule. As Lauren talked earlier, we want our children to be stable. So we're going to show them what to do because, listen, yes, our kids will become upset. You're going to show them what to do, show them the steps when they're stable and listening and really want to, be with you. So when they do get into pre-crisis behaviors, as you learned on the continuum, that way they've already known that, and it will be a lot more easier for them to calm down. The other thing we have is a great sticker chart. You can just plop that on the refrigerator. Lauren talked earlier about giving praise. So you might want to say, thank you for picking up your toys. So you can either use a check mark, a sticker, a star, and then when they fill that up, then they can get a reinforcer. This works really great for a lot of our children.
And talking about reinforcers, Christy, it's so important that we're reinforcing positive behavior. We should use this when we're developing new behaviors or when we're asking our children to do some skills that might be a little bit tough for them. It's so important that your child contacts the reinforcement immediately to gain buy-in. If we're rewarding them for the positive behaviors quickly, they're going to be more likely to do the behaviors in the future. So we need to identify what kinds of things are reinforcing for them. You can ask them or even just watch them. What kinds of things do they like? What are they drawn to? Some things you might consider to reinforce your child are things like food, maybe goldfish or other kinds of snacks. Social reinforcement, a hug or a high five, or telling them that they did a great job. Spending quality time with you could be an awesome reinforcer. Or access to preferred items, maybe like their iPad or a game.
Lauren, you gave such great examples. So everything that we've learned today, guys, is really some good examples of how to use proactive strategies to increase the positive behavior with your child.
If you need more assistance with the behaviors, you can reach out to your child's teacher and let them know you need some help. They'll reach out to someone on the behavior group like myself or Christy, and we can set up a time to meet with you either virtually or via phone to give you some more support. We hope that you learned a lot from today, and we look forward to doing some additional trainings with you. Have a great afternoon.
Goodbye.